and what should be your favorite subject as well, because it's the subject that we've got to keep beating the drum on. And no, it's not just MMT. We're going to put MMT aside a little bit. We're going to talk about neoliberalism tonight. It's a new year. We have had plenty of time to get the word out as to what neoliberalism is not, and why certain programs that people think are good ideas are just more and more and more of the neoliberal plot that has been put out there forever, based in an idea of scarcity, based in the idea of robots, based in the idea of only capital can win, and the whole idea of pushing us to private solutions. Folks, it hasn't gone away. In fact, unfortunately, it's getting stronger and stronger. We're still fighting with our own people. We're still fighting with people that are supposed to be on our side. Our side. We're still trying to make them understand when we say the UBI is neoliberal, why it is neoliberal. We're still trying to explain basic things like why a job guarantee is a superior automatic stabilizer to all other stabilizers, and why a UBI is not the answer to automation and all these other questions that keep coming up. We've spent countless hours, countless shows. I've been on many platforms, from Status Quo on across to other places like Jamal Thomas on Progressive Soapbox in the past. I've been on many other places. I've been on Hard Lens Media. I've been on the Convo Couch. I've talked about the UBI extensively. And then we've had people on our own Macro and Cheese podcast, from Pavlina Cherneva to Fadl Kaboub to Ellis Winningham. And we've even had Scott Fulweiler, Rohan Gray, Andres Bernal, Nathan Tankus, and many others, Raul Carrillo, all sorts of big names, smart people, Bill Mitchell, Stephen Hale, tons and tons of people trying to explain this. And yet these little pockets of people that keep cropping up everywhere keep trying to advance neoliberalism, and they're not the centrist Democrats. They're not the centrist Democrats. These are people that think they are freaking woke, baby. They think they are woke. They think they are sharp. They think they're smart. They think they're doing something cool. They think they're doing something edgy. And they don't realize what they're doing is furthering wealth inequality, furthering neoliberalism, and once again creating a situation where capital gets fatter and the services that you and I need, and the poor in particular need, are never there for them. So I want to talk about this because I want to start this year off on the right foot, because as we go into these elections, especially as these primaries really kick into high gear in Iowa, it's very important that you and I are able to crush neoliberalism wherever it shows up. Wherever it shows up, show no quarter, give no quarter, give no inch, give nothing. Do not in any way, shape, or form let this slide, because this is the kind of hard, activist-driven work. Not just being a cheerleader. That's the easy stuff. Anybody can rah, 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 shish, boom, bah. And when it doesn't work out, cry the blues. We've got to change hearts and minds, and we've got to blow out this neoliberal mindset. Otherwise, people aren't going to know any better, and they're your friends, they're your neighbors, they're your family, they're the kid down the street, they're your freaking people that you work with. Everywhere you look, people just don't get it because they don't take the time. And when they do take the time, they go to piss-poor sources. You're inundated with media disinformation. You're completely inundated with alternative media disinformation. People still talking about petrodollars, for Christ's sake. Folks, I'm telling you right now that as we enter into 2020, we have got to amp this up. We can't just stay status quo. We can't just be sitting there in the background as if this is not a big deal and move on to the next headline, move on to the next current event, etc. This is important because this is why wars are fought. It's good to be anti-war, but isn't it better to stop the wars before it gets to some idea in their head? Instead of waiting, oh, I'm so anti-war. But in reality, if you're anti-war, you'd start with the economics that makes that paradigm a working paradigm for the neoliberal, neocon war hawks. It's good for business, baby. But until you understand how this shit works, you're not going to get it, because there's still people in 2020 that think that they have to cut the military to afford the big programs that progressives need. They think that it's a zero-sum game. They always have to cut something to get something. That's Nancy Pelosi logic. That's Margaret Thatcher logic. That's Ronald Reagan logic. And it's a lie. And we're going to take this year and we're going to freaking knock it out of the park, because otherwise we're screwed. We're screwed. Screwed. So I want you to understand something. The UBI, which is, I don't know what the fascination is. At one point in time, I think I thought I did. And then I realized it was just a burp. It was just some gas. Just some gas. Wasn't quite, the food didn't digest properly, and I thought I had a moment, and I thought UBI sounded neat for a minute. Then I went to the bathroom and I came to my senses. See, UBI sounds good because we're all broke. We're all broke. So the idea of $1,000 is like, yeah, man, what can I do with that? I can buy a bunch of baseball cards. Shit, I could have bought a PS4. You know, I could have saved my money and gotten a PS5. You know, I could have done whatever. Then some people, more pragmatic, say, well, I could have paid off my student debt, and I could have done this, and I could have done that. People, the world doesn't stay static when you inject $1,000 into everyone's pocket. It doesn't. There's no price anchor here. Do you understand me? You don't understand me, because if you did, you wouldn't keep talking about a UBI. See, a price anchor sets the prices and helps keep them down, whether it be based on production, whether it be based on a number of things. A UBI has no price anchor. So when businesses see $1,000 coming in, prices just go up. And this is when it's universal. There's no real gain here. The other thing, and this is really a big deal, and people say that these two things are not in competition with one another, so don't pit them against each other. But I feel it's important to disabuse people of neoliberal thinking. I don't want this thing to have any air. I want to knock the breath right out of it. See, a federal job guarantee, if I'm putting in hours at a federal job guarantee, now the Walmarts of the world have to meet or beat my wage at the job guarantee. And the job guarantee is to be set at a living wage with a host of benefits, because it's a federal job. They can't subsidize their shitty wage at Walmart with your job guarantee, because your job guarantee is your job. There's no, unless you want to work two jobs, there's no job. You are working a job. And so subsidizing Walmart's shit wage with your UBI can't happen, because you're a job guarantee. Job guarantee sets the wage floor, and it really lifts all. And by doing that, you actually have to compete for labor. I want you to think about what I'm saying. This is a radical departure from just throwing cash at it. What does cash do? When poor people have cash, what do you think they do? Seriously. They spend it on food. They spend it on something. Man, they're broke. They're out there spending it. So who are they spending it to? They're spending it to the man. The man's once again saying, hey, we need to have a UBI, don't we? Silicon Valley, yeah, we need a UBI. We need a UBI. And the vultures start swooping because they're trying to figure out how they can get a piece of that UBI. But here's the catch. On the other side, the right wing, they're going, yeah, you got your UBI. You don't need all that social safety net now. You got your benefit. We're going to cut these programs now because you got your UBI. Because remember, the nation's broke. We got to reduce taxes. We got to reduce spending. We got to reduce the deficit. Oh, what's going to happen to your UBI? What's going to happen to your benefits? You didn't think it through, did you? Don't worry. It's a rookie mistake to be a UBIer. It's a rookie mistake. Don't worry about it. There's other people that did the work, so you don't have to be a mensch. You can just accept the fact that this is the way this shit works. Milton Friedman, king neoliberal himself, said the only problem with capitalism is we need more capitalism. And he wanted to get a negative income tax, a.k.a. a UBI, because he wanted to fatten capital. He wanted to be able to keep growing the bottom line of these companies. Has nothing to do with getting you food, has nothing to do with giving you shelter, has nothing to do with giving you health care, has nothing to do with giving you school, has nothing to do with getting rid of your student, it has nothing to do with anything. A UBI ends up being the ACA of programs. It's a giveaway to insurance companies on the ACA, and in this case, it's a giveaway to capital. Don't you feel super progressive voting for a UBI? Doesn't that make you feel like a major progressive? Like, oh, can you feel it? Can you feel it? Oh, yeah. Power to the people, man. And it's so depressing. Because this is what they do. They dangle a little turd in front of your face and spray it with some perfume, and you think you've got yourself a deodorizer for your car. You go ahead and hang it up in your window. It's really a turd you're hung. Just a turd. And that's the UBI in a nutshell. Think of it like this. You know, charter schools are another neoliberal plot. Another neoliberal thing that sucks the life out of public schools, shows all kinds of inequality right into it, and once again is exactly the anti-progressive. This is a pure libertarian fantasy as well. And the Ayn Rands, the makers and takers of the world, have shoved their genitalia right into the public space once again. And you got the Democrats pushing for charter schools because they're neo-fucking liberals. And that's what neoliberals do. They push for UBIs. They push for charter schools. They push for anything that makes the state look weak and incapable of taking care of its public purpose mandates. It's just like the banksters. Hey, the banksters, this, that, and the other. No, Congress deregulated them. Congress is to blame. Congress alone deregulated them. They could re-regulate them. When your school sucks, do you think the school just sucks and therefore public education sucks? Why do you think a profit motive is somehow or another a good thing to add to our kids' education? When there's a profit motive, that means there's either cost increases and price increases, or there is cuts in services. There's reduction in costs. They got to do cost cutting because they got to constantly improve the bottom line, which means they constantly have to go ahead and make profit. This shouldn't be difficult to understand, but for some reason I fight with more progressives. They're not progressives, they're libertarians. They're parading around as progressives because they don't have a home, but they're libertarians. And they don't understand economics. It's probably the worst thing that's happened to the progressive movement ever, is this insurgency of libertarians that are economically illiterate and try and horseshoe private sector solutions where the public should be taken care of. Think about this. If the prices go up on services and they're provided to you by the federal government, who absorbs the price increases? The currency issuing federal government that can make all its payments because government checks don't bounce. But when they put that on you and I with a UBI, now who has to pay the increases? Oh shit, well what happens if it's more than your UBI? Bet you didn't think about that, did you? I wonder why. I wonder why the UBI crowd doesn't think about these things. I've often wondered it. On one hand, I feel sympathy because they're just looking for a quick fix. They don't know any better and they don't want to take the time to learn. And so they dart off and they chase the quick win, what they think is a quick win. It's bad, but that's what happens. I get it. But there's another layer in there of people that really get it, but they are glad for it because they're hoping it will fatten capital. And sometimes it's hard to tell which one of the bunch is, and then you got the ones masquerading saying, well, you want to be just totalitarian. You want to tell us what to do. You want to control everything. You're like Soviet Union, communist, this, that, and the other. They call it freedom. Anarcho-capitalists, these libertarian anarcho-capitalists, trying to parade around as progressives when in reality they're just anarcho-capitalists. Infiltrating the movement like you wouldn't believe, shoving Ayn Rand down our throats, full of Alex Jones lies about the Federal Reserve and about the country being broke, and they come up with all this bullshit, man. And at the end of the day, we are watching everywhere in our country and around the world the scourge of neoliberalism as it tries to rip apart social programs in the UK. I mean, you see the Tories right now celebrating like those demons chasing Aslan as they shave the lion in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Hyenas squealing in the night, screeching their sick, perverse glory as they go ahead and try and rip apart the National Health Service. That, my friends, is your UBI crowd, and they don't even realize it. That's your neoliberal world, and that's what's coming here. Because if they give you your $1,000, you don't need these programs because it's waste. Remember, government waste. Government creates money every single time it spends. What is it wasting, folks? Think about it. Think about it. I will give you exactly a 60-second overview of MMT so we don't have to go through this a million times. But the fact is, your federal government, when it spends money into existence, it's new money every time. It doesn't respend your tax dollars, period. I don't care if you flex. I don't care if you whine. I don't care if you contort your face into funny faces. It's the truth. And then when it takes it in as a tax, it doesn't redistribute it to Sally Sue and Bobby Jane. It sits there and deletes it. It's a circuit. The money spent into existence, if you want to call it printing money, which is just preposterously ignorant, then that's printing money. But when they tax it out, that's unprinting money. That's the flow in a fiat system. So all this crap about the government can't, that's because you are restrained by a neoliberal mindset and you don't realize it. And because of that limiting factor, everything else just doesn't make sense to you because you're trapped in a neoliberal mindset. You can't imagine how a currency issuing nation could possibly get rid of student debt. You can't imagine how a currency issuing nation could possibly provide free health care. You can't imagine housing as a right and free shelter. You can't imagine a federal job guarantee paid for in full, not financed through a freaking network of banks, but paid for in full by Congress. You can't even imagine it because you don't understand, because you're still trapped in a neoliberal mindset. It's 2020, folks. It's 2020. And then you'll have the cool kids. They want to act like this doesn't matter, and they just want to go out and put their fist in the air and rally for this candidate and rally for that candidate. This stuff just doesn't seem like it's important to them. And yet, when Biden tries to say to the rest of the world, we can't afford that. When Biden tries to tell you that he's going to privatize Social Security. You're still thinking the Republicans raided the Social Security Trust Fund because you don't get it. Every single dollar Social Security spends is a new dollar. Every dollar received in Social Security is deleted like any other fiscal tax, federal tax. There's a ledger telling he paid a tax, okay, put a stroke in there. But that tax is deleted. And if you look at the fine print of Social Security, you realize point blank, it's just an accounting tool. There's no money there at all. The U.S., even Alan freaking Greenspan schooled Paul Ryan, the Reich winger. Paul Ryan said, shouldn't we privatize Social Security? And Alan Greenspan's like, there's no solvency issue. We can pay anything we want. The question is, can we create an economy where the real resources, the real goods and services are there for purchase? Now, show me the productive capacity that comes out of a UBI, please. And please, don't tell me about automation. I'm so over automation. Do you know, go to every school in America. Go to the schools in your own backyard. They're run down. They're nowhere near state of the art. Just getting our school system up to speed would create more jobs than we have people to fill. Now, give every single person in America health care, and we will need more healthcare professionals than we have U.S. citizens. Give everybody the right to college, and we will have more need for teachers and schools, etc., than we have citizens to do it. Say we're going to rebuild the entire infrastructure of the nation, we're going to have more work to do than we have citizens in the U.S. to do the work. So when you hear people talk about automation, do you get an urge to throat punch them? I do. It's almost like an involuntary reflex where you're like, whoa, you just want to gully them, right? All this work isn't being done because it doesn't benefit capital, but it would benefit we the people. You want to talk to me about automation? How shameful, really. How shameful. Imagine almost every bridge in America is rated B or below, C, D, F. Many of these bridges, you take your life into your own hands. Many of the levees and all the different things that protect coastal communities, they completely need to be redesigned, rebuilt, etc. And then you look at the irrigation for arid lands like in freaking California, and we've got forest fires like crazy. How hard do you think it would be for the government to spend money to build these irrigation plants and deep water filtration to provide fresh water? Massive amounts of jobs. Switch to green energy, even more jobs. At some point in time, the automation people should start making you feel really, really angry. They should start really pissing you off because they're holding us back. They're fucking us up, dude. Do that. And the people that don't know better, they're just useful idiots. The people that do know better are not doing it by accident. They're doing this because they have an agenda. And that agenda is the guy who has the most toys wins. And we can just funnel our capital funnel our money right into those people, and they can keep buying and buying and buying up the world. And that's what's happening around the globe. Fewer and fewer media outlets to compete with one another. Fewer and fewer production manufacturers for anything. Massive multinational conglomerates that have more power than God because we've allowed it. And you want to talk to me about automation. You want to keep us tethered to these parasites that are trying to make a profit on our asses. instead of understanding a federal job guarantee is not about work that is for the man. We're talking about community-based work. And by taking the people that were working these shit jobs and giving them mobility to move anywhere they want in the country and have a job that day, we have radically altered society. And then add in the fact that when we go to transition to green energy, all those jobs that will be lost and those people that will be displaced, where's the just transition? You're going to give them a UBI? Is that what you're going to do? Federal job guarantee gives people work, good work with good benefits, not $1,000 a month, a living wage, night and day, night and day, night and day. Neoliberalism is an evil, evil thing. And while you go out to Iowa, while you go out to these other places, making phone calls, texting for Bernie, texting for this person, calling for that person, social media, this, that, and the other, making cool memes, doing whatever you're doing, neoliberalism is running rampant. And people in our own movement are still advancing this stuff because they think the worst part of this whole thing is they think that the word neoliberal just means centrist Democrat. They don't know that it means an entire ideological framework for privatizing and pushing us to Wall Street, pushing us to bank credit, and pushing us to these horrible situations, friggin' payday lending, loan sharking, you name it. But they want to give you a UBI so you can keep paying into this and have no real change to society at all. It's status quo. And they don't understand that by doing that, it's fucking neoliberal. It is neoliberalism. It's the crown jewel of neoliberalism, is to render us consumption units. Now, why do you suppose people would advance that? Why do you suppose in 2020, with so much on the line, how do we mobilize an entire nation to respond to the problems of climate change? It's going to require a Marshall Plan. That's the Green New Deal. That's the framework that's required to restructure the economy so that it's sustainable and to restructure our energy sources, our infrastructure, our cities. And yet somebody wants to give people a UBI. Well, you need a job guarantee, and the job guarantee can be used in these communities to rebuild as climate disaster strikes. Because, folks, let's be fair. We haven't done shit to mitigate climate change. We haven't done anything to mitigate. We haven't prepared anything. And a UBI sure as hell ain't going to do that, is it? We need to be able to mobilize our communities. And a federal job guarantee puts us in a perfect spot to do exactly that. The framework for a Green New Deal does exactly that by rebuilding sustainable infrastructure, by taking a look at cities and thinking about how we can restructure the way they function and flow. High-speed rail, all kinds of stuff. It's more than just getting off of fossil fuels. Do you understand? Do you understand? It's 2020, folks. We should know better by now. You should know better by now. And yet we're still fighting the same battles with our own friends. I don't get it. And worse, I don't get how some people are so privileged that they act like going out and having a great time is more important than advancing this important truth. Getting swept up in other nonsense. Our lives, our children's lives, the entire fabric of society rests on us doing our grassroots work to get this message out there, not fiddle farting around. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progressives and Real Progress in Action. Catch us on our podcast. We have a new one coming out this Saturday. We have a new one coming out every Saturday. You can find our podcast at www.macro, the letter N, cheese.com. Find us on Spotify, find us on Podbean, Castbox, Stitcher, Last.fm, all of them, iTunes, you name it. Check it out. We're on our 50th episode here, folks. Coming up on our 50th episode. There's 50 of them to just consume and learn. All the experts from the field. Tons and tons of economists, tons and tons of experts, various DSA folks really have their shit together and know what they're talking about and have done the hard research. Check it out. Have a great day, everybody, and welcome to 2020. I'm out.